Here again we'll discuss water pollution in continuation with the previous lecture. In previous lecture we have seen definition of water pollutions, different contaminants, then pollutions in fresh water, different contaminants present in freshwater pollutions. So now we'll see, today we'll see the prevention and control of water pollutions. Biodegradable pollutants alone cause the measures pollution's load, but there are also several kinds of ingredients such as heavy metal, refractory chemical compounds, mineral oil which cannot be decomposed by mechanical or biological means. Inorganic fertilizers and various biocides are too responsible for contributing to this load. Efforts of control should be undertaken to reduce the amount of waste by reutilizing or recycling of their components. The various ways of techniques suggested for preventions and control of water pollutions are as stabilization of ecosystem, reutilization of and recycling of waste, and removal of pollutants. In this stabilization of ecosystem, it is the most reliable way to control water pollutions, which involves reductions in waste input, harvesting and removal of biomass, trapping of nutrients, fish management, and aerations. Various physical and biological methods are followed to restore species diversifications and eco-balance in water bodies to prevent pollution. Another one is a reutilization and recycling of waste. Various kinds of waste like paper pulp, municipal and industrial effluents, sewage and thermal pollutants can be recycled to advantages. For example, urban waste could be recycled to generate cheaper fuel gas and electricity. One large seen urban waste recycling plant is already existing at Okhla near New Delhi. The total gas generation from this plant is about 0.6 million cubic feet per day, having a heat value of 700 to 800 BIU per cubic foot. A new technology of waste recycling and disposal has been introduced by distilleries in Gujarat. This technology would not only help the distillery to treat 450,000 liters of waste daily before letting the effluent into streams, but also generate energy equivalent to that given by 10 tons of coal every day. The regulated use of thermonuclear reactions in controlled fusion reactors to produce cheap electricity, as suggested by some scientists, could solve the problem of accumulations of waste in 21st century. Another one is a removal of pollutants. The various physiochemical techniques used for removal of chemicals, biologicals, and radiobiological pollutants have been observed, like absorbed electrodialysis, ion exchange, and reverse osmosis. Of the various techniques, the reverse osmosis technique is based on the removal of salts and other substances from water by forcing the latter through a semi-permeable membrane under pressures that exceed the osmotic pressure, so that flows is in a reverse directions to the normal osmotic flow. In practice, this involves a porous membrane whose chemical nature has been such that it has a preferential attractions for solvent while repulsions for the solid. Reverse osmosis has been commonly used to desalinate brackish waters and also finds suitable, effective and economical method for the purification of water polluted by sewage effluents. Techniques introduced by CSI for the control of water pollutions have been successfully used for the removal of and reuse of pollutants from industrial effluents. Some of these achievements are ammonia removal from the wastewater of industry. Here ion exchange techniques using a quick acid cation exchangers based on methacrylic acid is employed to remove ammonia from wastewater in the form of ammonium sulfate, which can be reduced for the manufacturers of fertilizers. The process has good application potential not only for pollution abatement but also for the recovery of the pollutant in the form of usual salt. Another another technique is the removal of mercury from color alkaline color alkali plants effluents. Mercury thrown out from color alkali plants gets removed and recovered by mercury selective ion exchange resin. Then removal of phenolics. Phenolics in water, wastewater produced from industries such as pulp and paper mills, carbonization plants, petroleum refineries, training industries, tannery industries, resin manufacturing units are removed by the use of polymeric absorbents. Decolorization of water. An electrolyte decomposition technique has been developed to decolorize the waste water from that different cloth dyeing and printing industries around Jaipur in Gujarat. Removal of sodium salts. River osmosis technique is used to recover sodium sulfate from rayon mill effluents. The technique is also used to recover water for use. Similarly, 70% of the proteins and 80% of the lactose can be recovered from the cheese they by reverse osmosis, which otherwise would cause a serious pollution problem. Now we'll see some water pollution control systems. The most common form of water pollution control consists of a system of sewage and waste water treatment plants. Wastewater is collected by the sewage systems and delivered to the waste treatment plant where it is made fit for discharge back into the general water supply. The discovery of more pollutant is causing serious questions to be raised concerning the real meaning of the term fit as used here. The process of treating municipal sewage has been broadly classified as primary, secondary and tertiary level. Here primary treatment process, it is a mechanical process which simply removes solids. Metals screens top large solid sands and small stone settles in a grit chamber from which the water passes into sediment tank, where its rate of flow has been sharply reduced and small particles settle at sludge. As a sludge, scum at the top is removed. The quantities removed at this stage can be huge. Primary treatment is able to remove organic material responsible for 25 to 30% of biological oxygen demand of the sewage. However, primary treatment is normally carried out in a series of steps. First step is a screening. Here, large floating objects could be removed by passing the waste water through screens. Some plants use a device called comminutor, which screens and grinds the material. That comminutors screens as well as grinds the material. The shredded or ground material remains in water to be removed later in a settling tank. Then another step is a grit removal where sand, grit, cinders and small stones are allowed to settle to the bottom of a grit chamber. It has been a very important step for cities that have combined storms and municipal sewage systems. The grit obtained in this process is disposed of by using it for landfill. Thereafter, the step is sediment removal. Sewage, even after removal of grit, still has suspended solid. This will settle out if the speed of sewage flow gets reduced. This is a complicated and it will get completed in a sedimentation tank. The suspended solid settle out and a solid mass called raw sludge has been collected for disposal. The primary treatment has been completed when the effluents from which grit and sludge have been removed has been treated with chlorine gas before discharge into streams or river. Chlorine gas is added to destroy disease-causing bacteria. These are the different stages of a primary treatment process of that municipal sewage treatment plant. Now, secondary treatments are the employed biological method to remove biodegradable organic waste, followed by disinfections with chlorine to kill potentially pathogenic bacteria, viruses, and pathogens or protozoans. There are two main processes during secondary stages: trickling filter. Here, in this trickling filter system, the waste are passed through a trickling filter where long pipes rotate slowly over a bed of stones, dripping waste onto an artificial distress food chain comprising bacteria, fungi, protozoans, snails, and insects. The organic compounds are consumed by bacteria and fungi, which are fed upon by the protozoans, which in turn are consumed by snails and insects. Then activated sludge process step. In this step, the sewage is pumped into huge tank where it is mixed with air bubbles and bacteria-rich sludge for several hours. The organic matter is consumed by bacteria and the mixture is pumped out to sedimentations on tank, allowing the sludge to settle out for reuse. Both primary and secondary treatment remove about 90% of the oxygen demanding organic waste. However, most of the salts, nitrate, phosphate, pesticides, and radioactive materials still remain in the waste streams. As most of the sewage plants have only primary and secondary treatment facility, a large amount of plant nutrient is still being added to water bodies. Now, tertiary treatment in case of municipal sewage treatment plant. Here in this tertiary treatment removes most of the chemical that remains in water after secondary treatment. The major tertiary treatment method includes coagulation and sedimentations. Here the inorganic chemicals are precipitated by adding of slum, lime or iron salt. Then absorptions, that is activated carbon is used to filter the waste for removing chlorinated hydrocarbons. Then oxidations, where organic contaminants are oxidized by several agents like ozone and potassium permanganate. Thereafter reverse osmosis, where the water is passed through the membrane impermeable to dissolve ions. Then after biological method, where algae and water hyacinths grown in ponds can be used to consume nitrates and phosphate. The dissolved organic material can be directly removed from the water by certain aquatic plants such as duckweeds. Now we'll see principal effects of water pollution. Human and animal health, several waterborne infection diseases are directly related to polluted water. In addition, the Aquatic Food Chain Act concentrates several toxic substances as it ascends from microorganisms through various predators and prey to fish eaten by seals, by certain birds, or by people. Organochlorine and organomercuric pesticide PCBs and some radioactive pollutants are concentrated this way. Well water contaminated by nitrate from fertilizer runoff poses hazards to health, particularly for infants. The toxic and pathological effect of some heavy metal water pollutants have been uh, discussed here. As a example, a mercury. A pathological effect of mercury is abdominal pain, headache, diarrhea, hemolysis, chest pain. whereas lead cause am- uh, anemia, vomiting, loss of appetite, convulsions, damage of brain, liver, and kidney. Whereas arsenic, they cause disturbed peripheral circulations, mental disturbance, liver cirrhosis, hypoketoacidosis, lung cancers, ulcers in gastrointestinal tract, kidney damage. Then cadmium in water pollutions cause diarrhea, growth retardations, bone deformations, kidney damage, testicular atrophy, anemia, injury of central nervous systems and liver and hypertension. Whereas copper present in water as a water pollutant cause hypertension, uremia, cornea damage and sporadic fevers. If there is a barium, it cause excessive salivations, vomiting, diarrhea, paralysis and colic pain. Zinc cause vomiting, renal damages, cramps. Selenium that damage liver, kidney and spleen. They cause fever, nervousness, vomiting, low blood pressures, blindness and even death. Hexavalent chromium if present, it causes nephritis, gastrointestinal ulcerations, disease in central nervous system, cancers. Then if there is a cobalt that cause diarrhea, low blood pressure, lung irritations, bone deformities and paralysis. Now, loss of recreational area is also one of the principal effect of water pollutions, where beaches are closed when the bacteria count of water is too high, indicating pollution by fecal matter. Beaches are also closed when the water contains toxic substances or gives off a foul odor. In heavily polluted area where algae have thrived and died, rotting mats of floating debris wash up on the shore. Solid waste sometimes wash up also, and some oil spill have caused spectacular damage to valuable beaches property. Water containing considerable organic matter generally becomes depleted in oxygen as microorganisms that feed on the material die and decay. Decay consumes oxygens and desirable fish needing a relatively high oxygen level either die out or go elsewhere. Mercury pollutions or pollution by PCBs also reduce the recreational values of the fishing lake. Resort owner, commercial fishermen, and the communities that benefit from such recreational activities suffer considerable economic damage from many types of water pollutions.